Well, first of all, let's get things straight. My dad's from Sudbury, Ontario, and my mother's from Beauce, Quebec. So I have an accent in French and in English. So today I'm going to talk to you about an adventure I was on. And how it took 6 years to train for this. It took also 2.5 months. I had to raise $100,000 to do this. And I was 18 years old. But I'm not only going to talk to you about this mountain, this adventure I was on. I'm going to talk to you about exploring the uncharted, taking a crazy idea of like climbing the biggest mountain in the world and make it real. Well, first of all, this is me. I was 12 years old, and man, I was a bugger. My teachers at school, they called my mother, they say, hey, JF, he's a little excited, you know. Maybe you can give him some Ritalin. But my mom, she knew me, she knew me really well. And she called the teachers and said, JF, I can control him at home, so you can control him at school. So I had a special permission to run around the school a couple of times. But my parents put me in the scouting, and when I was on this cliff, I wasn't that excited little boy anymore. I was focused. And on that cliff, I found my passion. I found my passion for the outdoors. And the first thing I did is I told as many people as I could. Everybody around me knew it. And my passion was so contagious, just like H1N1. Everybody around me knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to do big adventures. And at 16 years old, I became a wilderness guide in the north. This is on the Nahanni River, one of the most beautiful rivers in Canada. And so I was a guide on these rivers. But after high school, I didn't know what to do. What my society was telling me, oh, you should go to a university, you should be this, you should be that. But the only thing I wanted to do was to climb Mount Everest, was to see Everest with my own eyes. So I told my mother, I said, I want to see Mount Everest. I want to go to Nepal after high school. And she said, where's that? She didn't even know where it was. And so I went to Nepal. She said, okay, you can go. And then I went to see Everest with my own eyes. And at that point, for me, it was a changing point. I saw Mount Everest, and I decided that's what I wanted to do. I went to Mount Everest. I came back. I went to Kathmandu. I made myself a T-shirt with my goal on it. I didn't have a choice now. It was on a T-shirt. I had to do it. So I had my T-shirt. With my goal on it. I made about 6 of them. I gave it to one of my friends. His name is Martin. And he said, hey, Martin, he was at business school in Ottawa. And I told Martin, hey, here's the T-shirt. I want to climb Mount Everest. He says, whoa, that's a big goal. He said, hey, your goal is huge, humongous. He said, it's almost impossible, but it's also impossible to eat a whole elephant. And how do we eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So I said, is that what you learn in university? And so I went to university in business, took my Everest project as my goal, and so I raised funds, I trained, and I also found out I needed some money, I needed some sponsors. And at first it was hard, but I found the most important thing, how for sponsors, people are not investing in the idea. They're investing in the people behind the idea. So I was networking, making sure my passion was contagious. And I went to all the business networking events, even women in business, everything, all of them. You name it, I was there. But at a certain point, after all this training, I went to do an Everest expedition. I was 24 years old. I went in this mythical valley, the Valley of Everest. Went into close to base camp with all the yaks, brought all the stuff to base camp. It was a lot of stuff. We're constantly reminded of the danger of Everest. This was a helicopter crash from the base camp of Everest. I was telling myself, hey, JF, there's no helicopter that's coming to get you up there. Constantly reminded, but I reminded myself how prepared I was and the support I've received. The first section of Everest is the Kumbayas Field, the most dangerous part of Everest. It's crevasse, there's seracs, constantly falling down, so we have to cross these with aluminum ladders. So you're walking on these aluminum ladders with crampons, and you're looking down. I looked down, and I was so scared. But because I had that passion, it was so engraved in me, I wanted to do this. So I did it the first time. You walk, and it goes up and down, side to side. But the first time I did it, I was scared. But the second time, the third time I did it, I wasn't as scared. So I had to do it about 15 times. Got to Camp 1. Camp 1, that night, it snowed. It snowed 1.5 meters of snow in one night. We were there 5 days to shovel. 5 days. Our camp looked like this, and we were seeing something else too. We were seeing avalanche. I saw one, took a picture, had it on sport mode. I put it in my coat, I ran into my tent. It was shaking. It was such a dangerous time. I was in my tent. I was like, what's gonna happen? The next day, we decided to go all the way back down. All the way back down to base camp. Got to base camp, but that next day, there was a huge ice collapse. There was so much pressure on the ice fall. There's a big ice block the size of a bus fell on 3 Sherpas. 3 people that were helping us. And one of them was on our team. His name was Finjo. A team member had died. At that point, I didn't know if I wanted to keep going. Finjo, I played checkers the day before with him. And now he's dead. My goal was crumbling down. At that point, I had the reflex of taking the satellite phone. And I called my mother from the base camp of Mount Everest. And I told her that 3 people had died that day. I don't know if I want to keep going. And for the mothers in here, I know that this is very hard. You know, your son calls you from Mount Everest. 3 people had died. But she knew me. And the idea is just as good as the people behind it. And she said, JF, you've been working hard on this. Keep doing it. I'm encouraging you. So it was very important for me to have that support because I don't think I would have kept on going. She said, come back home. But I kept going. So we're doing up and down on the mountain. We have to acclimatize, and it's a long process, 2.5 months on the mountain, but we're starting to get ready to go to the top after 2.5 months of doing this. And we're getting close to the top. We're going to the death zone. Wow, this is encouraging. So we're going to the death zone at 8,000 meters of altitude. That night, we're going up to the top. So we put our masks on, and we put everything on, and we climbed during the night. It took about 12 hours to walk to the top. And I'm going to show you how we do this. So you walk. You take a step, and your heart rate goes so fast, just from one step, and you breathe 10 times before taking another step. And that other step, your heart rate goes about 120. And so you're walking so slow. You're walking up, and you're breathing in that oxygen masks. And I got close to the top, and I saw this. The summit ridge of Mount Everest. I said, I have to walk on this? One side is Tibet, one side is Nepal, and you're on that ridge, climbing up. And you see there's 8 people on that ridge. I don't know if you can see them, but there's 8 of them. And I remember my friend, he said, JF, he said, Everest is like eating an elephant, a bite at a time. At that point, it was 1 step at a time, so I take 1 step. I breathe 10 times. I didn't realize what 1 step meant, but at that time, I did. I got to the top at that crest, and I saw the sunrise from the top of Mount Everest. It was so beautiful, I'll never forget this moment. And I saw the curvature of the earth. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, the earth is round. And so I saw the curvature of the earth, and you can see the silhouette of the summit on the horizon. And below, it's not glaciers, it's clouds. And so I was there at the top of Mount Everest, looking around me, and seeing that sunrise was the reason why I was there, to see all these beautiful mountains. I became the youngest Canadian at that moment, and I was so proud of myself. I climbed the highest mountain in the world. Well, now I have to go down it. I was there for 20 minutes. All that for 20 minutes. I realized a few things when I was there. I realized what had gotten me up to there. And there's a lot of good ideas, but the idea is just as good as the people behind it. And if you're not passionate, passion is contagious. So you have to be passionate, and surrounding yourself with all those people around you is key. It's key, just like my mother when she told me, keep going. And all the sponsor that I had with me was very important. Also, eating the elephant, a bite at a time. But when I was there for 20 minutes, I realized something. You know, we do all this for 20 minutes. Crazy. But I realized that 20 minutes wasn't my goal, wasn't my dream. My dream was the whole expedition, was the whole 6 years that I did to train to go there. We're always trying to go somewhere and, to progress, but we don't enjoy the journey. So I'm telling you, enjoy the journey. Thank you.